Welcome back to Bourbon Over Baseball with your host Bob and co-host Jeff and Matt. Welcome back, everyone.
What's
How's it
up?
going?
We are back in our returning series where we're breaking down the original 2000 pennant MLB Showdown cards and how we would look at them in drafts, etc., and play with them and what our experiences are and other BS we like to do while drinking beers and bourbon.
Cheers.
So today, last time you guys listened to, we listened to the Indians, and this one will go with the worst team in all of 1999, which is what the 2000 set was based on, the Minnesota Twins.
We're gonna win, Twins. We're gonna score. We're gonna win, Twins. Watch that baseball song. Knock out a home run. Shout out hip hooray. Cheer for the Minnesota Twins today.
That's,
Oh my God.
That's about the best theme song I ever heard.
Right, no question. That song should have been worth like at least 5 wins that season. Like, honestly, like it's the best. It's better than pretty much any player on this team.
According to the YouTubes, they have been using that song since 1961. We can ask the other Matt that we talked to on Twitter if this is real, if he knows this song and loves it, who's our big Twins fan that does MLB Showdown. It's apparently a collaboration between Ray Charles and Dick Wilson, so good job there. Now we'll try to see what this team actually is.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Get your beers ready. So up first we got Chad Allen, A-speed 7.
A speed, lots of singles.
Not bad, right?
Interestingly,
I don't
filled up
mind
that
him at
chart.
No, he's actually like I'm telling you, if you're filling a spot, like I don't know if I would have put him on the lead, but put him towards like the end of your
Yeah,
lineup.
he's
9 guys
definitely
into
there.
the. Oh my gosh, he would fit in well.
Yeah, I mean for a A-speed 7, you expect not much, but for 240, it's not too bad.
Right, and he's trucking in this picture too.
Oh yeah, he's like again trying to round third or something.
Right, he's got something in his hand. It's probably his gloves.
No,
Like,
it's
what
his
is-
glove for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, look, hell yeah, dude, he's getting at it.
Oh yeah, this guy's like really trying to earn that A-speed, which we need.
Right. I hope that honestly, I hope Wizards of the coach thought of that said like this guy's an 8-speed. We need to make him like look like he's like.
I do think of that when I make cards, and Matt, you can attest to this.
Yeah.
When I do catchers, I try to always find catchers that are in their catcher's gear. Big hitters, I try to find them hitting. Amazing fielders, I try to make them fielding. A-speed guys, I try to watch them either running or fielding. It's just what I try to find image-wise when I'm making cards.
Every once in a while, you got to get a speed C guy running. That's the best card.
Right, and like that they're not fast. You
Yeah.
know, it's like it's hopefully it's probably a really unflattering photo too.
Well, if anybody's seen the 2019 set, Matt gave the umbrella treatment to Josh Donaldson,
Yes.
where it's the Rain Man, and it's like he's got the umbrella in the dugout of the Braves, so it's pretty cool.
I'm actually really quickly. I'm glad you brought up that story about like using certain types of images for the cards when they're designed, because we'll get to this guy eventually. But Michael Barrett, who I believe is on the Expos, he is a catcher, and
Yeah.
his 2000 card is him running, and it's a super unflattering photo of him running. Like I've always thought that like him and I'm trying to remember the Sean Casey card are like the ugliest cards or the ugliest photos. But the thing is, like, I just watched a video on YouTube of remembering, or I guess realizing that Michael Barrett is the guy that punched AJ Brzezinski. in that
Oh,
one
really?
fight. Yeah, so like it kind of changed my whole opinion on that guy.
Oh, no.
I was basing a lot of it on a super unflattering like showdown picture, and like actually he punched the shit out of AJ Brzezinski. Great. So anyway, side story.
So
Great
next
side
up
story.
we have Ron Coomer, which actually I have drafted this guy before because of the +3 third base.
Mhm.
And he actually has a decent range in hitting, but with only 2 out. But man, I
That's a
do
lot
not
of
like
points.
sixes.
Yeah, it's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points for a 6.
I like that he has a lot of range, being able to go at first and third, and he's great at both. Like that's awesome. But
So that
that's-
Michael Barrett card, I just grabbed him real quick, is him playing third base. That's why.
oh, okay, all
He's
right. I
also
thought
a third baseman.
I
But-
thought that was the same guy, but maybe I'm wrong. But I think he does play catcher.
He does play catcher, but
He does. Oh,
that
okay.
image is of him playing third, I believe.
Well, it still looks pretty bad. It's a pretty bad picture. So
It's
Wait,
not the best.
With Coomer, I would say, like, if you're playing the 20-man roster, the bench discount, he's 40 points if he's on your bench.
Yeah,
That's a good bench player.
that's a really
Right.
good bench player.
Because then you could put him in again, like all of a sudden there's a low control guy. You could put him in,
Yeah.
hopefully cause some damage, and then you're not getting knocked on the defense.
Or defense too. Like later in the game, you say you have a power hitting third baseman that's a +1 or a 0 third base or first base. You could bring him in late.
And it depends on your rules too. I know that we play big negatives if you play a person out of position.
Yeah.
So when you are pinch hitting, like you're saying, like grabbing this guy from the bench to take over a spot because he's actually decent with the hitting with the bat, and maybe they brought in their low reliever, because he's not going to hurt you. I mean, I played -5 at a non-first base position, or if they're a center fielder can play left field, right field with like a minor discount, but like -5. So that's huge if you bring in someone and like all of a sudden you're -5 at a position. Next up, Christian Guzman.
Whew.
Best part here, 20 points.
20 points, baby. Though
Though I'm mad that he's not A speed.
4 to 18 single. I mean, he's getting on base pretty much never.
That's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
huge
it's
single
a lot
range.
of hits, huge single rate, and then the next two are single pluses. So
Mhm.
if you're playing a good catcher, he does nothing but single.
Yep. And just rough with that 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, woof. Ugh.
Next up, Denny Hocking. Denny Hocking. So another 6 A speed.
another utility guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
Not terrible.
whole team can just rotate while playing.
Yeah,
Right. But then get no hits in the process.
Yeah. It's a little rough. Obviously, if you're a big Twins fan, hopefully you're looking at the 2019 set, not this set.
Right.
Next up, Torii Hunter.
just before he got good.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I was
this
gonna say, his 2001 card is actually, it's great.
Is he on the Angels then?
No, he's on Minnesota.
Oh, he's
still.
still in Minnesota? Okay.
Yeah, he's like a 7 on base, I think.
Oh, okay, so it's better than this.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Nothing.
Outfield +1. I mean, like versatility speaks to me about this team so far.
Yeah.
Right.
They look like they have good, decent fielding.
And most of them, even though they have terrible on bases, only have 2 outs.
That actually is true.
Right. I'm gonna draw an equation. Like this is kind of outside of the the baseball world and the sports world, but I've been in the music world, and I've seen a lot of bands where every single person in the band can like play the other person's instrument and they flip around on stage, but the band's still not good. That's basically the Twins. That is the Twins encapsulated. It's like just stick to your one instrument because you're not that great,
And
Anyway.
Side note, does he look like he's swinging and missing for sure on this pitch? I don't know if he's hitting this ball. He
I
looks
think
like
it's
he's
a check swing.
looks like he doesn't know what he's about to do.
Right, no, that face is he wants to check swing, but he knows he's going to swing it. Like, that's what that face is.
Next up, an actual draftable player, which I've seen a lot of people draft, is Skorkowsky.
Right.
9 on base, so this is like the highlight of the team right now. +2 third base, great. And an average chart. Nothing crazy here, but you're loving the 9. That's what you're
Yeah.
getting him for.
And I feel like it's good points for his chart.
Totally agree.
Good points, plus fielding, B speed 15. So again, people that are only playing some of the newer Showdown. Back in the day, C speed was 10 speed, B speed was 15, and A speed was 20. Obviously, in the newer sets, and people have seen this recently, instead of the solid number, we've done ranges. Because a guy shouldn't be just locked into C or B or A. They can range anywhere from, we do anywhere from like 10 or 9 sometimes, all the way to 23, 24, depending on the set. So, I like this guy.
Yeah, he's great. I had him. I had his 01 version.
And
on my
this
team.
dude looks super cocky, like he just fucking hit this ball. He's like,
Right.
yeah, bitch.
He has the most confident single ever. No, he does. His face is just like he's doing like duck lips, but it's like badass duck lips. Like, he looks great.
That's definitely a spring training picture.
yeah. Next
Oh, I love
up, Matt Lawton, who, he didn't. Oh, no, never mind. I was thinking a different person. But anyway, Matt Lawton, actually decent. 8 A speed for 220.
Mm-hmm.
That has plus fielding. Charts kind of meh, but
Pretty wonky, right.
a huge
A lot
walk
of
range
walks.
here. 1
For
through
an 8
5
on base,
out.
that's a lot of walks.
And I don't like the 1 through 4 ground ball out, even though his A speed just rough.
Yeah.
And that's super. Yeah, that's a great point. I never really pay attention to like the specific outs on a player, unless it's like really bad. But man, 1 to 4 ground ball out is like if you do that on your own chart with somebody on first, like oh my god, dude, it was
that
like
hurts.
that is the most. Not only getting out on your chart, but then creating a double play is one of the most like just deflating feelings when playing this game.
Absolutely.
And it's a 20% chance of it happening.
Yeah, that's a big range. You just got the advantage because you're an 8, and you rolled the 20% chance to get a ground ball. I mean, inning killer. It just shuts your whole momentum down. It's a table
Right.
flipper.
I will say, like his image on here, I will say is one of the more iconic photos I remember when playing this game when I was little. Maybe I had a lot of this card particularly, but yeah, no, I always loved the stance, what he's doing. He's hopefully not getting out. It looks like it hopefully is a base hit, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely not on the ground.
No,
Right.
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, it's definitely in the air. Next up, we got Joe Mays. You're looking at another Dave Burba from last time we just talked. The high points for a 3 control guy because of the IP7. So if you're into that kind of thing, maybe he's up your alley. But for me personally, and I know some of the people also on this podcast and other people we know, I'd rather stack it into my bullpen and help out than to pay the extra salary for the IP.
So what I've kind of noticed, and this is just from looking at 2 sets for like the way they set points, he's 20 points more than Burba, basically the same chart, except he has a better ground ball range. So they must have gave out more points for ground ball.
They did. When I did the
Okay.
original calculations, I broke down like the points per each individual thing, and that's what you'll see. Well, Matt's seen this on my algorithms. The ground ball ranges and stuff, strikeout ranges, they give certain value to a
Okay.
pitcher, but sometimes it's not enough to jump it up because in Showdown everything's 10-point increments. So sometimes it might be like a small increment and doesn't jump it up enough.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy though. For like explicitly being 20 points for that little bit of extra ground ball range is pretty wild.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's not worth it to me, but
No, not at all.
maybe
Here.
to like some of the people in our league who love ground ball range,
Yeah.
and there's not many people left to go. I just don't want to pay $390 to get that IP. Like I don't want to control 3 in for 7 innings. I was already mad enough that I
Unless
got
it's
the
Randy
control
Johnson.
3. Yeah, unless it's Randy Johnson, which I've seen do really well and really shitty.
Yeah.
So next up, we got Doug
Mankiewicz?
Mankiewicz, I think.
Mankiewicz. We'll have to ask other Matt. This is a pretty cool photo.
Yeah, he looks like. Yeah, this is a great picture. This is probably also spring training.
Oh yeah. Those jerseys.
Yeah, that's like a penny jersey. It's like you could see
Yeah.
through it.
Right. I never paid attention to that, and now I'm only going to pay attention to
Yeah.
that. Also, there's definitely not that much sun in Minnesota, so this has to be spring training.
This
Right?
guy, they're like, just
Didn't they
throw
have a
this jersey
dome?
on. We don't know if you're gonna make the team yet. You're only worth about 90 points.
Right. So he made the team though.
yeah. But
90 points of first base defense.
yeah, that's all this is. No homering. He's 7. He's slow. It's a rough card.
First baseman with plus defense that does not homer.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's kind of awesome, but yeah, no, I don't know why I would. This is if I need that many. If I need a first baseman somehow and I have that many points left, I guess I'd pick him.
Yeah. Next up is the random Eric Milton that comes out of nowhere with a 6 control.
Woo!
This was always the joke, actually going forward in a lot of our discussions when people talked about grabbing a 6 control guy who's only 1 through 15 out. It's like, do you like Eric Milton? Because if you like Eric Milton, then you're like this guy going forward. He's interesting. He's an average guy, but he is up a tier. But if I'm not mistaken, Matt, I thought someone looked up the stats and they still don't understand how he was a 6
Yeah,
control.
he shouldn't have earned it at all.
Yeah, we don't know how he earned this card or stats, but good job, Eric Milton. I mean, obviously, it's awesome that you got it because it's actually a pretty cool card. I've drafted him before. 6 control is obviously great for 530. I mean,
I got it coming your way.
yeah, I mean this is fantastic though.
Okay, so in 1999, he had a 4.49 ERA
Yep.
and a 1.2 WHIP. That is like he should be like a 3 out through 16.
Yeah. No idea how he earned it.
And he went 7-11.
That's
We've talked about it. We have no idea how he earned it, but it has been a staple. I've never heard that it's an error by anyone.
Mm-mm.
But whatever. I mean, but it's there's not many of them that these six control 115 outs like John Smoltz and stuff like that. And he's like not a strikeout guy. It's a weird card. A lot of fly ball range here, but
He had 5 complete games that year.
maybe that's what they meant by control.
I mean, it's funny if you look at this card in the silo. It's so badass though. Like I'm so into it. Like this would be. I'm just saying, like if I were like drafting a 1-2 starter, like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
he's not even a foil. Like I don't. And it's funny. I don't know why they decided to not. Like they must have really felt like he did not deserve a foil for whatever reason. Maybe because they knew they were messing up the card.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
Paid him under the table. I mean, other one like John Smoltz isn't a foil, but I feel like that's because Kevin Millwood and Greg Maddux are foils.
right.
But I mean, he's great.
And leading into the only foil on this
Yeah.
on this
So
set.
for less points, less tier than that guy, you get Brad Radke, which actually I do enjoy. So now you're talking about a 480 point guy who's the 4-1-16 out. So another control higher. So he's another what we call a tier. If you want to hear us talk about tiers, comment below. We can break down in another video. We've done it in the past, but
well, really quickly, give a quick rundown of what the tiers.
Matt, break that down.
Okay. So for each pitcher, we came up with a tier, and that would be like to set their total ERA and WHIP combined. And to get to that, like you add their control and their out. So he would be a 20, which is a tier 3, which is kind of like your average pitcher. Cone 5 out through 15. He's the go-to for average for that year.
Yep.
But so like to be like a tier 2, you have to score your ERA and WHIP in between a 3 and a 4.1 combined, and that will get you like a 5 out through 16, 4 out through 17, 3 out through 18. And to get better, you got to be below a 3. And so it's like that way you can manage the starters in order of how they pitched all year, but then you can increment them based on control for which ones actually did better than the others.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say, as like is somebody not directly involved with you guys creating the cards and just kind of hearing the tiers for a long time. And I was only up until recently that I asked you guys, I'm like, I don't even know how we got here. Like I knew that tier 1 was great and tier 3 or tier 2 was good and so on. But it is kind of a nice way to like just kind of you guys use it a way to kind of figure out like what the points should be, like how good are these guys, like the whole kind of.
But it helps you quickly go look at a guy who goes, okay, he's a 4 control, 16 out, tier 3. Eric Milton, 6 control, 15 out, tier 2. Like he's the next tier up.
I think like a 450 point tier 3 is like your low level ace, like Radke, Cologne, like guys like that. Cone, Tim Hudson. And then as you move up in tiers, you get to like your higher level aces, and then you get to Pedro and Randy Johnson.
Yeah.
Right. It's nice to get kind of an idea of like how good this pitcher is, whether they be a control 3 or a control 6. Like they're all still good. They're just different types of good.
Yeah. It lets you know that where does a Randy Johnson fall in comparison to someone else? Because some people just look at the controls and say I don't like him, or the outs and say I like him or not. But where does he actually fall? And I've always liked Radke for 2 reasons. One, I like a control 4, 1 through 16 out guy. He's very standard, very, very good. I like the extra out, and I don't mind sacrificing that 1 control in the tier 3 range. And I like the extra 1 IP in this scenario because I'll keep my control 4 in another inning longer versus a control 3. It's a huge difference keeping that 3 in for 7 innings versus the 4. That's the reason I like him.
Right. And the Twins in this year, I know that baseball in general, but like the ground ball ranges on the starters on this team, they hit a lot of ground balls.
Yeah. So Brad Radke's always been a fan favorite of mine. Let's see what else the Twins have in store. They got Terry Steinbach.
For 220, not bad, right?
Nah.
I think I would take Einar Diaz over.
Yeah,
him,
I think I would take
at my catcher.
I think I would take Einar as well. I don't really like this card at all.
On base 8 is nice for 220.
Yeah.
But yeah, his chart is 9 to 17 single is not great.
He's just not winning me over, and I'm not getting my arm. I'm not strong enough, I guess, on base with no chart.
Yeah, he's an average hitter and an average catcher. He doesn't like. If I'm getting a catcher, I either want a good hitting catcher or a good defending catcher.
I hear you. Yeah, I'm with you.
Next up, Mike Trombley. Actually really good closer here.
Yeah.
This guy's the 5, 1 through 15 out. So you're talking about very standard, this is, again, we talked about tier 3, 5, 1 through 15 out, closer for 160. I mean, an undervalued everybody in the OO set. Awesome for 160.
Yeah, I'm super into this. I wish more of these types of guys kind of like, I think about 2019 and the 2018, and I remember when I drafted that I had none of like good relievers left towards the end just because I didn't focus on it. And my God, I would have killed somebody for a player like this.
Yeah. Next up, Todd Walker. He's got a good chart, 13 single plus, but
He does everything.
7, and I don't know.
Right. I mean, I think that he would, again, it's like, it depends on what you're valuing. I mean, I think the 7 and 8s, I think it's funny. Like, I think 7 and 8s in our more recent seasons have done okay. With pitching, not saying pitching hasn't been as good, but it's definitely a bigger range. I feel like with these seasons, with 2000 and 2001, like the pitchers are just so dominant that you just you really can't value a non-base 7. It's 8 where you have to be there.
Yeah.
So it's just tough to say. Like now,
sevens aren't great unless you know that this pitching is down that year. I mean, if you're doing a draft, 7s become more valuable because you don't know what the other people are going to get. They're not going to get the pick of the litter, depending on the draft. If you're doing a blind draft or a draft where you're drafting from packs, 7s are fine. But if you're talking about like a draft where people get to see every card and formulate a team for 5,000 points or 5,500 or whatever you're doing, 7s are not good because people are gonna make their teams perfect to face people, and you really need the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s.
Right.
Next up, Bob Wells. Great. This is a tier 2 guy. I don't know how he's less points than the closer.
It's the closer bonus. That's what it has to be.
I told you. The closer's 10 more points in a tier behind him. Don't know how.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, no, it makes no sense. I mean, Wells
0
does
cents.
he has a big fly ball range, but
0 cents, Jeff.
I'm with you. I think it's closer bonus.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
100%.
a 5 1 through 15 out for 160, or I can have a 6 1 through 15 out for 150.
Right. No, I'm with you.
But all it changes is a reliever. Again, in the strategy card days, things gave bonuses to being a closer. There was things like when the closer comes in, the reliever comes in, things happen. Strategy cards can play things. So I think that's why it happened. Either way, Bob Wells is great value for anybody drafting these days, especially without strategy cards. This is the kind of guy you want. Next,
all right, that's the base set right there, right?
what?
Yep, pennant run time.
Pennant run time.
Oh, pennant run time. Hector Carrasco. Interesting. I didn't know his last name was Carrasco. I didn't know that.
No, this is I think I love the no double.
I actually think this guy's pretty
pretty
decent for 120.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have, the way I've kind of structured I think each of us have kind of done this, but I'd say with our, 4 relievers and 1 closer or just 5 relievers, however you want to look at it, I'd say we definitely try to have 1 or 2 totally dominant guys, but then the rest of them, you want to get some guys that can be solid, come in, not blow the game if you're up by a few runs or something. And I mean, this guy fits into that mold.
It really depends on the type of draft you're doing. If you, like I said, there's a draft where you have all the cards on the table or all the cards in a spreadsheet, and you're drafting and building a team. You're building a team in that kind of draft, and you're snake drafting. This guy might not find a spot on a team. But if you're doing like a pick draft where you're passing packs or some kind of blind draft, I would not mind having a 3 control for 120, no doubles. 1 through 16
Right.
out. I mean, for 120 is very solid. I like this card a lot.
In a big ground ball range, which is nice.
Especially, and it's like just with this team, the Twins bullpen's actually pretty good. I think what really hurts why the Twins were so terrible that year had to be their lineup.
I mean,
Because like their pitching's good, decent at worst.
the only person we saw was Torii Hunter that could even do anything.
Right.
and Matt Lawton if he's not ground balling out.
Yeah.
Right. Skorkowsky would have been batting like 8th on the Indians.
Yeah.
Really scary. And that's not a joke.
You had to put him at catcher.
Oh man.
I guess you could have replaced Travis Fryman with him because they're third basemen. Yeah, I'd take him over Fryman. Next up, Eddie Guardo. Gerard.
Gardado? Yeah.
So got the closer bonus here for no reason. 4-1 through
That's
16.
going to be the theme of this podcast is every time we're going to yell closer bonus.
Closer
Yeah.
bonus. It's like a drinking game. You know, we
Should be a T-shirt.
we actually haven't said it, but we've each been taking shots of whiskey. Closer bonus.
Wait.
We're all pretty drunk.
So Bob, we got a 4 out through 16 that gives up 2 doubles.
nope.
Same price as Bob Wells.
Yeah, exactly.
Closer bonus.
That like I feel like that 1920 double is just like making Bob shake right
Yeah,
now.
I don't like it. I almost drafted Trevor Bauer in the new set, but then with the 2 doubles like scares the shit. I mean, like was it Verlander didn't get the home run this year? Again, people 2019, people listening right now. But 2 doubles. If you guys have played a lot, you'll know how devastating a double is. It is. I mean, in real baseball, it's devastating. But I mean, everyone's moving. ASB guys are scoring from first sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of shit happening.
You just can't do it. I'm telling you, like Bob, I've seen Bob roll back-to-back 20s on me. 20s. And that's not even counting into like a freaking 19. Like I've seen people do like my last team who did pretty well, and this was with the 2018 cards. But I had all my starting pitchers and most of my relievers didn't give up a double. And I'm telling you, like, what saved me in a couple games was that I had people rolling 18, 19, 20, 18, 20, 19, like all in a row. And the fact that it wasn't ever a double just saved me. Like, I kept me in the game. The moment you put in this guy and that happens, you're done. Like, the game's over.
Yeah, I don't like this guy at all. Though I like the Minnesota jerseys with the pinstripes.
Yeah, same. That's great.
Pennant Run gets in-season uniforms.
That's totally true.
Next up, is it Jack Jones?
Jack
Jones? So this
he's great.
This is
I
not
like
bad.
him. He looks fun.
Yeah, this chart looks cool. 13 single plus, a lot of double range, good outfielders. 7's not the best here, but for 220, I don't mind it.
Right. I think people will get him for the defense. On base 7's not great, but his chart is pretty badass. Speed B is not. I mean, there's really the worst thing about him is that on base, and if that's the worst thing for 220, I guess that's not the.
There's a lot of 220-point players in this team. I feel like I've said the 220 number.
I think the first guy was 220.
I feel like it said like 4 times this draft, or this podcast.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's like 220. I have it down the line: 240, 200. 200, 220, like that's like just give me another 220, 220. There's 4 220-point players.
Yep. I felt like it kept popping up in my head. So,
wow.
Anyway, who's this guy? David Ortiz.
Oh boy,
He looks a little skinny.
He's skinny.
Yeah. Wow. He's small poppy.
Yeah.
That's
Small.
ever made. So it just happened.
So this is before he becomes, I think, a DH only in the 0-1 set. Big, obviously 1 through 5 out range here. But 15 double, pretty decent for an 8 only for 260. That has a 15 double range.
Yeah.
I don't mind this. He's slow, but
Well, I compare like Harold Baines. I'm trying to remember his chart off the top of my head, but he was like, I think he was he was a 9. So maybe
He was a 9.
that makes sense. Okay, but yeah, no, I mean, I think if you could swing this, like him as a D or the first baseman, him as a DH, like, yeah, it's not bad. It's definitely not bad.
I mean, especially for this team we're talking about now. I just think for 260 for an 8 that has some pop is not bad.
No.
Right. And if you know, like, tell me if I'm crazy here. Like, I know that, of course, in the new sets with the new players, there's a lot of guys that double, sometimes 12 and 13 and 14 that are, on base 8s or better. I was looking at these guys, the 2000, 2001 players, and noticed that there aren't a ton of guys that do that. I think there's not a ton of guys that have a 13 or 14 double, while also being an on base 8, 9, or 10. I'll need to confirm that just looking through it, but.
So what you'll see in the older sets is more probably on base, less on base for our sets, and then more home run range because everyone and their mother is just hitting fly balls these days. So what happens is you get a home run calculation that goes against their on base, and that gives you your home run chart. Then there's a double calculation that gives them their double range. So it's just like a lot of things happening. And if they have X amount of triples this year, they get a triple thing. and then single plus depends on like stolen bases. So there's like lots of things happening, and like everything gets filled in sort of after that. But the home run stuff usually happens first, and the outranges happen, I think, first. So you'll see a lot of like Javi Baez. Also, what happens is too, the lower they're on base, the more all that increases because they don't get the advantage a lot, so they have to still get like Javi Baez is hitting a ton of home runs. So how is he doing that at only a 7? You know, he has to have a huge range so that when he gets the advantage, it's happening. That's
Right.
the only way you can get those numbers to read correctly for like a whole season.
Right.
So that's kind of how it gets calculated out. But
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is I just know from talking to Bob and talking to Peter, they put a lot of math into this. Like Peter can run through like, this many doubles off this chart.
He's better than I am.
Like 5.5% of the time. Where I can't speak for Wizards. I think they were in the profit business and just kind of, this guy, this many, we're putting this here. Whereas I think Peter just goes mathematically into it and can figure it out.
yeah, Peter
easily.
knows it off
He's
the top
really
of his
good with
head, and he can run the numbers. I like my algorithms, so I know like the calculations behind it, and then I input the data. But like Peter can like literally look at a guy and go, he had this ERA, this WHIP, that's this. He had this many home runs and this on base, that's this. Like that's ridiculous. He's very, very
Yeah,
smart. This is
like the
and this
one
is
day
El
we were-
Presidente of the blog, everyone.
We were talking the one day and he was saying something. Oh, he had like 42 home runs, and over the point of this season, like he only had 400 plate appearances, so that gives him like a 8.3 home run range, which makes him like a 15 through 20. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I will end there. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
That was it.
No.
I was going to say, I will end this by saying, and this is something Bob pointed out to me, so this is kind of interesting about the 2000, 2001 cards, is that the 2000 cards actually kind of show the full body shots.
Yep.
Like, that sounded weirdly sexual when I said it, but no, it's like a full body shot of the player playing baseball and nothing else, right?
Yeah.
But the 2001 cards are kind of more zoomed in, like kind of toward rolling up. And I got to say, this Big Poppy picture is it's pretty. The full body shot is pretty great. You know?
Yeah.
Well,
If you look at
and
the,
I've noticed that, and like the funny thing is, like I know Randy Velarde for sure. They use the exact same card. They just zoomed in for 01.
I did not know that. That's funny.
And like stuff like that. And I think since we have like a 01 template when we make cards now, it's so much easier to do a half body
Oh yeah.
cutout. Like it takes half the time.
Yeah, 01 is about the knees and up. They really want to zoom in on the player. And sometimes that works really well, especially when making older cards that don't have the best images. But sometimes like a really nice full body, full swing. Like I like making Aaron Judge like full body because he's such a big guy. But I think he'd probably look really sweet too as like an 01 from like the the knees up, like really strong, torso up kind of guy. So just depends on the images you're working with. And that's what Showdown did in 00, and then what they did in 01. That, everyone, is the Minnesota Twins. Stay tuned next time for another AL Central team that we don't know which one it will be yet, but they obviously be better than the Minnesota Twins because they were the worst team in the Showdown season. Any last parting words?
If I could sing that theme song, I would, but I don't know it off the top.
I feel like I need to like make it my ringtone or something,
And-
but
I guess my last word is I just looked it up. Velarde's picture is different, but it's very similar.
oh, okay. So maybe he just has the exact same approach on like every ball that he does.
Yeah, apparently.
There is a catcher, if I'm not mistaken, that has the same picture reused for 00 and 01.
I think that a couple of them did.
Yeah. I think they got a little bit lazy. They were like, how do we
You
make
gotta-
money?
Paid for the rights for the picture, and they didn't.
Yeah.
What isn't broke don't fix, right?
I hear ya. All right, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.